Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, everyone, and thanks for joining us here for Sunday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy. On the warning chart, we've got some warnings out for the Kenai Peninsula there on the east side and also for northeast Prince William Sound. The one up there is for Thompson Pass, looking for those northerly winds to increase. So there's a blizzard warning out there as the winds increase later tonight and into early tomorrow morning. This high wind warning is for the Whittier area by itself. Could see gusts up to 80 miles an hour sometime late tonight at the earliest or throughout the day tomorrow, but it illuminates the whole zone here. But even Seward seeing wind gusts this afternoon up to 40 miles an hour out of the north, and that'll continue to increase, but the strongest winds will probably be in that channeled Whittier area. And then there's a advisory down here over the southern southeast coast, and snow advisories, winter weather advisories due to snow. 3 to 5 more inches here for the Copper River Basin tonight into early tomorrow. Same thing up here along the eastern Alaska Range areas. And for this evening, these winter weather advisories and then extend eastward through tomorrow afternoon here for the eastern areas, but then we'll be ending back toward the west. Anywhere from 2 to 7 inches more snow will probably fall in these areas here over the next 12 to 24 hours. Again, they'll be tapering off back to the west. On the satellite, you can see front bringing a lot of wind and rain, with the heaviest rain, 1 to 1.5 inches falling down over the southern southeast coast. Still coming down pretty good in both Ketchikan and Net and over towards Heidelberg. Still a lot of clouds down there yet to move in. Breaking out a little bit, that's where the precipitation was more mixed and mostly snow. Rain this afternoon at Juneau. Skagway had snow, and a narrow band in between those areas saw some freezing rain during the day today. And then the low pressure area in the Gulf of Alaska, you can see right in here, and the snow falling across the Kenai Peninsula. Still raining though at Cordova. Rain mixed with snow in the Whittier area at 4 p.m. But basically all snow there, Matanuska Valley, Susitna Valley, down into Cook Inlet, beginning to taper off a little bit here down the inlet there, especially back to the west. You can see some breaks in the clouds here. More clearing over Kodiak Island. Those winds beginning to kick up there as well this afternoon. Pretty windy across portions of the Alaska Peninsula once again. And a pretty nice day over the Pribilost, with those winds already swinging around to the southeast there in response to this next system that's bringing 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts out to the central Aleutians and gusts as high as 60 or more miles per hour out towards Shemya, with the rain and fog in that area. High pressure here over the eastern Bering Sea. A lot of low clouds, fog, and flurries. Actually, a disturbance right in here coming onto the coast at noontime. That has since slid eastward a little bit there. Another one back here, caught up in that westerly flow, will move in right about the same position as this one does, and some of that moisture actually will make its way up the river valleys and into the central Tanana Valley. So that's going to keep it from clearing out as soon as it otherwise would if those two systems weren't out here to the west. Lots of clouds and areas of snow across all of the interior here, especially the Koyukuk Valley. Bettles had where the snow came down pretty good throughout much of the day today, anywhere from a few inches up in that area, tapering off, but still some occasional snow again picking up with this disturbance moving into the southwest coast. Areas of snow across Norton Sound into the Kenai Peninsula. Areas of snow also over Kotzebue Sound, as well as the Arctic coast and the North Slope areas. On the chart, here's this low in the Gulf, and the front kind of draped across the eastern Gulf and southeast coast, gradually moving inland. Rain heavy at times there. Gusty winds, especially over the southern areas. Rain mixed with snow to snow as you get up towards Skagway. and then areas of snow across the southeast interior, both sides of the mountain, Gulkana, Nabesna, Northway, Fairbanks, Nenana, all those areas carrying snow today down through the Susitna Valley. Palmer down to a half mile in snow at times this afternoon, down into Cook Inlet, but again, still rain along the North Gulf Coast there. Winds kicking up here over Kodiak Island to over 50 miles an hour in some locations. Snow showers beginning to taper off along with the winds here over the Alaska Peninsula. And then that low cloud, fog, flurry, light snow thing going on here along the west coast up into Norton Sound, linking up with this system here that's keeping some areas of snow in over the Copper River, up over Kotzebue Sound in that area, and then this low producing some snow there over the eastern Brooks Range, Arctic Village, the Yukon Valley, back up across, say to Anaktuvik, and you see another band up there along the Arctic coast. And then the next big storm, quite a tight gradient out here, moving in onto the Aleutians with the gale force winds already occurring out there and have been. We'll see tonight that whole front pushes eastward, so the strongest winds will occur this evening toward midnight in toward the Adak-Atka area, continuing to increase with snow changing to rain and gusts as high as 50 miles an hour there for Nikolsky and over toward Unalaska. Winds, again, already have swung around to the southeast and started to increase over the Pribilofs. This next system pushing into the coast with another round of snow, low clouds, fog, and some IFR, the low IFR there. Well, from Kuskokwim Bay right up into the Seward Peninsula areas. And then this, some leftover stuff from the first disturbance moving on up into that area. Could be some clearing over the portions of the Tanana Valley behind this system moving in toward Canada, but a lot of snow gradually diminishing again this evening with a big increase in the wind. So areas of snow and blowing snow, especially through the passes, Isabel Pass down to Thompson Pass, and even up there toward Broad Pass on the Parks Highway. Could see some near whiteout conditions at times as those winds kick up and start blowing that new snow around. Valdez picking up 4 to 5 or more inches in the last 24 hours, while Cook Inlet saw anywhere from 2 to 4 inches or more in some areas, heaviest up toward Palmer. And snow showers now back in toward the northern southeast coast. And then for tomorrow, those will begin to taper off, become kind of mixed with rain and snow. Again, diminishing though. This Arctic front could bring a little bit of snow in towards Yakutat on up into the Skagway areas, but decreasing snow here over the eastern interior with skies beginning to clear. Visibility is improving and the wind's diminishing, so it's not going to be a very prolonged wind condition coming in. Already the gradient becoming quite slack over Cook Inlet tomorrow afternoon with a high up over the Tanana Valley areas. But again, some of this moisture from that system coming into the Yukon Delta tonight will kind of slide up over the and stay to the west of the Alaska Range and go right up into the central Tanana Valley. So hanging on to those clouds and light snow through much of the day tomorrow, but clearing right out here to the west. Then the next system pushing in, rain heavy at times, strong southeast winds coming into the Alaska Peninsula, gales for sure, possible storm force gusts as well, and windy wet conditions up across the Pribilofs, and that's spreading up towards St. Lawrence Island. So that'll continue to move mostly east on the Monday night, Tuesday time frame here with another low, couple of them actually developing as this frontal system elongates out to the east there. Alaska Peninsula, much lighter on the winds coming up later tomorrow night and Tuesday as this front weakens and becomes more east-west oriented, but getting a little windy here over the southwest interior. And then watch for the clouds to increase and the chances of rain or rain and snow along with that. But that's going to be mostly out along the coast and occurring later in the afternoon, and then more wind and rain pushing into initially the southern portion of the southeast coast. Looks like this low center will track up toward Yakutat, possibly toward late Tuesday night and Wednesday. Dry over the interior with not much in the way of wind except maybe out toward Norton Sound. Get a little brisk, probably possibly seeing gale force east-northeasterlies here, St. Lawrence Island. Definitely gale force winds over the northern Bering Sea on Tuesday with a better chance of some snow down toward St. Matthew Island, and then all the moisture south of there, but in the form of rain toward the Pribilofs. And this system clipping the Arctic coast there could bring some windy or blowing snow conditions there to the east side, but not too bad to the west. And looking at temperatures today, the warm spot at 4 p.m., 46 down there at Heidelberg. 45 over at Annette and Ketchikan. Again, the heaviest rain occurring over the southern area. Rain and 36 there at Juneau. 34 Elfin Cove. Sitka up to 42 and a 36 with rain at Yakutat. 35 rain Cordova. But Valdez, 30 degrees, of course, snow there, and then those north winds as high as 40 miles an hour or so at Seward this afternoon. And Kodiak down to 32 degrees with those northwest winds, and Akiak actually had gusts over 60 miles an hour occurring late this afternoon, with the winds increasing here over south central Alaska. Some light snow in Kenai at 30, 26 Palmer, 29 up at Talkeetna, 14 at the park, about the same in Fairbanks. -8 Fort Yukon, 12 below both at Barrow and Umia at the cold spots this afternoon in the state, and a little below or a little above zero here over the northwest with areas of snow. Same thing, much the same, but above zero there for the Nome and Golovin area. 12 degrees Savunga and Gamble. Off to the southwest, right near freezing here over the Pribilofs. Near 40 over the Aleutians, 34 at Unalaska. Still some light snow going on, all of it on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula. A little windier, 27, Chignik and Sand Point. Looking at the lows for tonight, below zero conditions here over the Seward Peninsula through the central areas up to the north, but not all that low, maybe down to 20 below in some areas back up in this zone, but below freezing there for Bristol Bay. 30 degrees more or less for the Pribilofs, upper 30s for the Aleutians, and in the 30s for the southeast panhandle. And for the highs tomorrow, staying below zero, really about the Alaska Range northward up to the Arctic coast there, with the Koyukuk Valley cooling off pretty good, just staying in the 15 to 20 below range throughout the day. Back up near zero toward the coast, 13 degrees for St. Lawrence Island, and pushing up with the milder conditions to near 40 for the Pribilofs. 40s out here over the Aleutians, and below freezing along the North Gulf Coast now, and 30s and 40s over the Panhandle. Flying weather, this system pushing eastward slowly. By late tomorrow afternoon, just look for the conditions to gradually improve here, but staying lower on the north side of the Alaska Range longer, becoming VFR first or earlier here over the southern or south central Alaska. IFR sliding into the Panhandle, a lot of IFR over the eastern interior up to the north slope and the Arctic coast. Then a break, more slow stuff coming in with the next storm as it pushes in again up toward the Pribilofs, edging northward with IFR all along the Alaska Peninsula, breaking out a little bit behind the front. Individually, Anaktuvik, or individually the passes for Anaktuvik, IFR gradually becoming marginal throughout the day, and Adigan probably staying IFR the entire day, while Lake Clark and Merrill looking pretty good tomorrow, VFR. And same thing for any good VFR coming up. Windy could start out a little marginal there, especially on the northern entrance, and then become VFR. IFR to start with, and becoming VFR later tomorrow afternoon for Isabel, and then the lower stuff hanging on to Mentasta a little longer than the passes to the west. Tanita, though, good VFR. Portage, marginal, becoming VFR. Increasing westerly winds, definitely along with some pretty turbulent conditions for Portage tomorrow. And for Chilkoot and White, looks like an IFR day coming up for that area. For the freezing levels down, or the surface now, back up over the southern Bering Sea, almost reaching Nunivak Island there, and then back down across Kodiak, back up to the coast, and then on to the southeast there with warmer conditions as high as 4,000 feet coming up toward the Pribilofs. For the icing threats, none over much of the mainland areas. Some leftover stuff here for the North Gulf Coast areas, or specifically around Yakutat in here, and then with the next front bringing more moisture in. Look for some possible moderate rime icing there for the Alaska Peninsula, back up, all that approaching the Pribilof Islands, but should stay off the coast throughout the day. Then some scattered stuff following in behind. Upper level wind flow chart for tomorrow. Generally northwesterly flow, that trough moving through tonight and tomorrow. And so ridging back to the west there, that eventually is going to dry it out. All that occurring ahead of the next storm system out here that's going to be swinging northeast and then cutting off to the east over by the middle of the week. 9,000 foot wind flow. Look for those winds as high as 60 knots there for the Alaska Peninsula. Light and variable under the high. Northerlies 30 to 45 knots, especially late tonight, early tomorrow, then gradually coming down. Westerlies there could kick up as high as 35 knots as a wind max heads eastward there toward the White Mountains on into Canada. Lighter winds up along the Arctic coast, and then some pretty good west-southwesterlies up to 45 over the Panhandle, and then lighter winds behind the front here over the Aleutians. 3,000-foot winds, much the same ahead of the front, as high as 60 knots to the Alaska Peninsula. That wraps back up across the northern Bering Sea and then diminishes over the Aleutians. Mostly high pressure here through the west and southwest interior into south central Alaska. It's those winds strongest in the morning, coming down in the afternoon from west to east. And then that wind max even showing up at 3,000 feet here across the Tanana Valley in southern Yukon, 15 to 20 up along the coast, 40 knots for the Panhandle. With that will be occasional moderate chop here below 8,000 feet for the Northeast Gulf and the northern Panhandle. And also, especially starting the day out, pretty bumpy conditions there for the Seward area up into Prince William Sound. A break and then possible severe turbulence coming in ahead of that active front as it makes its way northeast across the Bering. And after the break, I'll be back to look at the marine forecasts.
Coming up on Destination Tomorrow, we'll take a look at NASA's new crew exploration and cargo launch vehicles. We'll also find out about an intriguing new trip to Mars called the Phoenix mission. And we will revisit the Viking mission to the Red Planet. All this and more next on Destination Tomorrow. One tool that will be invaluable on any mission into space is a spacesuit. Whether floating around the International Space Station or walking on the Moon or Mars, spacesuits will be used to keep our astronaut crews safe. Here is Johnny Alonso to find out how they work.
Space is an incredibly brutal environment. Not only is there no atmospheric pressure or oxygen to sustain life, but human explorers must also deal with intense radiation and extreme temperatures in order to perform even the most basic tasks. Inside a spacecraft, the atmosphere can be controlled so that special clothing isn't needed. But when outside, humans need the protection of a spacesuit. In 1961, astronaut Alan Shepard wore one of the first suits designed for spaceflight aboard the Freedom 7 spacecraft. This suit was actually a modified version of a Navy high-altitude jet aircraft pressure suit. Spacesuits have come a long way since then. The current Extravehicular Mobility Unit, or EMU, is the result of many years of research and development, and is also a powerful tool for operations outside the International Space Station and the shuttle. Now, I spoke with engineer Phil West to find out how it works.
Most people have this preconceived idea that a spacesuit is pretty simple, heavy cloth and things, but it's really a mini spacecraft that lets you step out into this very harsh environment.
What are the consequences of not wearing a spacesuit?
Well, it's a bad day if you don't wear your spacesuit. First of all, there's a vacuum in space, right? So just like when you open a soda bottle, it's going to fizz, right?
Sure.
Your body will do the same thing. And literally what's happening is your body fluids, your blood, and everything are going to boil, all right? And it's not because of temperature, it's because of pressure. Remove the pressure and whoosh, that stuff wants to come out. So then you've got temperature extremes. And I don't mean temperature of space. You need molecules to have temperature, but your temperature, the spacecraft's temperature, could get very cold or very hot depending on whether you're in the sun or in the shade or the things around you.
Sure.
Okay, and then there's little particles of natural or human-made stuff that fly around space at high speeds and could literally hit you, yeah, or micrometeoroids, natural stuff that comes in from elsewhere.
What are modern spacesuits made out of?
Think of the spacesuit as a balloon shaped like your body. All right, and we've got to have a layer to make that balloon, so we use this urethane-coated nylon. Okay, that's like camping tent material, but it's got a coating on it to seal it up, and that's the basic layer that holds all the gas in. We put that and we make it the shape of your body. We call it the bladder. Now, what would happen to a balloon if you inflated it too much?
And it'll pop.
Right, pop, which is bad. So in a spacesuit world anyway. Right. So we got to constrain it. We got to make sure it's the right shape. So we use this polyester layer to give it structure and strength and make sure it's the right shape of your body, the right size, arm length, etc. So that's the first two key layers of the spacesuit. Then remember temperature extremes we talked about?
Yes.
Okay, we have 5 layers of aluminized mylar. So now think of the spacesuit as a thermos bottle. You know how a thermos bottle works? It's got a vacuum between an insulator and a glass jar with a silvery coating on it. So that's for thermal protection, and then a real tough layer of
what's this?
Nomex with Teflon coating on it. Feel that's kind of slick, right?
Yeah.
And it's got Kevlar woven into it, a very strong fiber. And that's so you don't get tears and you protect all these other layers very well, right? You don't want to get a hole in here because you don't want to get a hole back here in your bladder.
Right. Phil, how do these spacesuits operate?
Well, you've got a control pack on the front and a life support system on the back, all right? And that life support system is more than just oxygen. It's got batteries for power, a radio for communications, computer, and a bunch of plumbing and things to keep you alive. And that's all controlled up in the front here with this control pack. And so we've got some places for the astronaut control, like their communications equipment. You can open that valve if your suit overpressurizes. There's a little dial there to change your communications mode, and a little display to tell you, hey, you know, Johnny, you've only got 3% battery power left. Pack up your toys and bring it on in. And then controls in the front here for volume and your position, whether you're inside or outside the spacecraft, is up here on the front.
And what's this dial?
Well, that's for temperature. Remember, we're inside a thermos bottle, okay? And you're a heat engine. You're actually producing heat. You're not just like hot chocolate. Hot chocolate in a thermos bottle stays warm, but it doesn't get any hotter. You would get hotter, right? You'd overheat. Literally, your own body heat would be your downfall because your body heat is going to have nowhere to go. It's going to be trapped in there with you.
Right.
That's what happens in a spacesuit. So literally, what we'll do is pump cold water all over your body through long underwear like this.
Check that out.
All right? And so that is plumbed. This connects inside the suit, and then this dial controls the temperature of the water that flows over your body through all these tubes. There's enough tube in there to stretch the length of a football field.
Really?
And you can actually see the water. See the air bubbles in there? There's a few air bubbles.
Sure.
It's all charged right now.
So Phil, off the record.
Yeah.
How do you relieve yourself in one of these?
Good question. You know, well, you've got a drink bag, so you're going to want to drink some water, and eventually that's got a place to go. Well, it's pretty technical. It's a diaper.
Lovely.
The whole idea was, let's save money, let's use adult off-the-shelf diapers. We sew extra material into them. They work great if you can get past the idea that your mom told you not to go in your pants.
Hey Phil, thanks a lot. You know, giving us all the info about spacesuits.
Sure.
Listen, I was wondering, can I get like a souvenir off this?
I mean, I wish I could, but there's no
So
way. You know, it's
cool.
pretty nice stuff. We really can't. What do you think? Well, you know what? Actually, we don't. This is used. We don't need the diaper anymore. You can have that.
That's all for this edition of NASA's Destination Tomorrow. Thanks for joining us. I'm Steele McGonigal.
And I'm Kara O'Brien. For all of us here at NASA, we'll see you next time.
Welcome back. For tomorrow, southwesterlies 15 to 20 knots on the inside waters, more in a 20 to 25 knot range here out along the coast. So some small craft advisories. And then during the day on Tuesday, those winds southeast increasing to 30 to 35 knots, more easterly up here to the north. And then look for some small craft advisory level winds to develop over the southern inside waters, lighter winds up here to the north. For south central Alaska, winds will be strongest tonight into early tomorrow morning and then beginning to diminish a little bit here, still 20 to 25 knots in the late afternoon here for the North Gulf Coast, but becoming light and variable there across Kodiak Island. And then on Tuesday, swinging around northeasterlies just about everywhere except for gale force easterlies here for the North Gulf Coast. Northeast 20, higher gusts continuing Prince William Sound. Northeast winds 20 to 30 knots through Cook Inlet. Strongest winds looks like here for the western Gulf Coast, but still quite a range from 30 knots across the Barrens there down to variable at 10 over southern Kodiak Island. Bristol Bay tomorrow, easterlies 25 knots. Gales here for the Alaska Peninsula. Possible storm force gusts, especially early in the day. And then for Tuesday, southeasterlies 20 knots here, higher gusts for the peninsula. Starting out with easterlies at 25 there for Bristol Bay, then they'll come down out in the Aleutians. Northeast, light northeasterlies out in the western zone, otherwise southerlies 20 knots. Still looking at small craft advisories here for the eastern Aleutians there up to 25 knots. And then for Tuesday, southeast winds out here anywhere from 10 to 25 knots, variable there over the central Aleutians, northwest 15 for the western area. And for Monday here, southeast 30, Kuskokwim Bay area, north of the island, northeast 25 to 35 knots here for the northern Bering Sea, and easterlies at 40 knots tomorrow for the Pribilofs, Those come down to 25 knots on Tuesday there, and about the same right into the southwest coast. Northeasterlies 30 to 40 knots for the northern Bering Sea on up to St. Lawrence Island. And then for the Monday outlook for the east side, west to southwest, 15 knots, southwesterlies at about 20 for the central coast, on back down along the western side. And westerlies pretty light there for Cape Lisburne and Point Hope, and the Chukchi Sea looking very light as well, just 10 knots. No change, staying light there for Tuesday, but northwesterlies at about 15 here for the western and central coast. And then with that trough coming across, could see those winds kick up to 30, maybe even 35 knots with some higher gusts for a short period of time. Again, strongest over toward Kaktovik. And for tonight again, we have this system coming across the northern Bering Sea. That'll spread more snow into the southwest areas, Norton Sound right up into the Nome-Golovin areas, and then areas of snow all the way in through the Tanana Valley. Winter weather advisories out for much of those areas through tomorrow, ending back here to the west. Blizzard warning for Thompson Pass there north of Valdez, and the high wind warning in Whittier tonight with that tight pressure gradient between this low and the high moving across the area there, and precipitation becoming a little more showery and diminishing for the Panhandle tomorrow. Less wind, especially into the afternoon, as high pressure, everything moving through here. So the next front coming up with the gusty winds for the peninsula into the Pribilofs. And for Tuesday, that whole thing slides eastward across the Gulf, bringing more wind and rain into the Panhandle, while the interior stays pretty dry with some areas of clearing, hopefully. This trough catching the eastern Arctic coast. Low pressure out over the Aleutians and the Bering Sea for areas of wind and rain. Have a great evening.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
It's never too early to set expectations and goals for your child's education. The UA College Savings Plan provides opportunities that can help you reach your educational savings goals. Save in Alaska. Study anywhere. There is more information available by calling 1-888, the number 4, and then Alaska. This message sponsored by the UA College Savings Plan.